ever been in the Indian time. So whether the seamlessness between retail and e-commerce, or whether it is about quick commerce, which is actually, sending us the goods that we want within or less than 10 minutes. And also at the same time, the kind of distribution that exists in the modern trade, in the general trade. So I think I've never seen a better ecosystem and a network of retail and distribution than what I'm seeing now. So given the fact that, we have, and I remember back, this event is about almost 15 years old, and I remember some of the discussions I've had with some of our panelists here has been that how do we achieve that distribution? So I think, sir, you'll all agree that time has come, Naiyya. You'll agree that, we've managed to achieve it. But now how do we create that consumer excitement which is really needed for them to be buying and, probably at least if not going parallel to what an American consumer or what a European customer is buying, at least we come closer to it. So that's where our discussions are going to be centered as to how, the brand leaders are today creating that excitement for their merchandise. They are creating the excitement in the stores and also compelling reasons for customers to come in and buy the products. Because today I feel affordability is not a problem in India anymore. It is about that excitement, where you're not just buying for the heck of it, but really going out there for a reason and purchasing something from the store. So basically our discussion is going to be centered over there. So I'm going to start with Mr. Ved. Mr. Tushar, so many new brands that you're getting into India. I've been, at the editorial desk, we've been busy just putting news together of, the new brands that you're launching. So please slow down a little bit. We need little time to edit them before we put them out. But having said that, sir, that, you've integrated food and you've integrated fashion so beautifully, and then you're doing the big grocery store, which is, of course, the chain that is coming to India. So how are you sort of making sure that all the brands that you're bringing to India, how are you integrating them, and at the same time, putting their individual brand identity, putting their individuality, the culture that brand represents very strongly across in the Indian market?
So, what I can tell you is we are an Indian company and we work like a joint family. So in joint family, we give you the culture. So the culture will be the apparel culture. So we do coffee, Tim Hortons, then we do footwear, then we do fashion, and now we'll be entering the grocery supermarket space with Carrefour. The advantage is what culture we are setting up. How are we making sure the target audience or the target customer is getting the right brand? We still don't have so many brands in India. We only do 12, but we are looking to get another 5 or 6 more next year. And we'll keep adding to the portfolio as the consumer is evolving, the consumption is increasing. Last year, we opened 80 stores in India. Out of 80 stores, in my head office, we only added 5 people. Everybody else we added on the floor, and some in the DC, in the distribution center. Right? You have to realize that each brand has their own ecosystem. So each brand works independently on the merchandising, on the visual merchandising, on the buying, on the marketing. They have a separate team. What is integrated is a back office. So the finance, the logistics, the marketing, where we go and, we can buy the media, but then each brand decides what media, how they want to use or spend, and each brand is an individual. Each brand has a different culture, but the company culture comes first, where we are saying, this is our company culture, this is what we will do, and the brand is integrated into that. So just like a joint family. You could have, grandparents, they give you the culture, they tell you, vegetarian, non-vegetarian, whatever it is, right? And you flow that down, but every person is an individual, but the finances, the logistics, everything is on top, is what we do. And then each brand works individually as an individual vertical in the company. The brand does, head office remains one. Distribution center remains one. But when we add grocery, the thing that will happen is we'll have a cold storage. We'll have a different storage, but the culture will be the same. The software at the back end could be the same. The front end software could be different. That's what we do. And the marketing will be very, very different. They will have their own marketing person, they'll have their own team. That's how we operate. And like I said, in the Gulf, we do 85 brands, 2,200 stores. India, we are still only 12 or 13 brands. So we have still a long way to go. Thank
And
you.
sir, what are the learnings that you bringing from the Gulf to India? You know, this is like Gulf is almost like a second home for Indians now, you know, where they love to visit or they buy the second home outside India. So what, and you, as you said, that you already have 85 brands out there. So what are the retail learnings that, you know, that are centric to Middle East, which you're bringing to Indian retail market?
See, one thing that we realize in India, the consumer is much more evolved. India, the consumer is also looking what the Zeptos and the Blinkits do in India, 10-minute delivery is very different. We have a lot of Kirana stores in India, which we don't have in the Gulf. So India is very different, but the expectation of the customer is to have the international experience with the Indian way. So the Indian consumer wants a pizza, but they want with paneer on top. Or we'll have a spaghetti, and we used to do this in college, and put the Indian masalas in the spaghetti, because that's how we eat. So that you have to Indianize the international experience to bring to India. And do not charge short. The customer is saying, if I'm going abroad, not only GCC, abroad anywhere, why is the product or why is the store looking inferior or the service looking inferior? The Indian consumer is not going to accept that. I think a lot of people have failed undermining that, saying we are going to cut corners by bringing a different experience in India. Customer is saying, no, I want the same experience, but in India, the wedding season is large. In the Gulf, the Ramadan and Eid is large. So we as a company have to evolve with that, but make sure the products are of the same high quality, the experience is the same or better, and customer is saying, that's what I want. And that's what we are learning from the Gulf. When you go to the Gulf, I keep telling people, it is amazing the way you shop. Shopping experience is unbelievable there. And that's what India also needs to do. The large amount of shopping malls, the size of the mall, the size of the stores, it's very different. And the Indian consumer is evolving to that. And that's what the Indian consumer expects. Thank you.
Sure. No, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to come back to you, but I'm going to jump on to Vineet right now. So Vineet, you know, in the last 10, 12 years, I've been seeing so many experimentations that you've done at Bestseller. And one of the best that I've liked, I remember having this meeting with you somewhere in 2012, where we talked about brand licensing and licensing collaborations in your office. And I know over the years you've done it so well, you know, where you've integrated, you've dropped a new line or you've sort of come into it. So how do you think today retailers, and still I feel retailers in India have not used it to the optimum. There's still very little play that retailers have made in terms of doing new merch collaborations. So how it has panned out for you at Bestseller, and where do you see the future of licensing collaborations happening more for brands in times to come?
Thank you, Ritu, for having me here. I think the brand collaboration and collab is the way of life. We are a trend-driven brand, and I think that's where it's difficult because many of the brands are not trend-driven. But if you're a trend-driven brand, then you need to figure out what's happening now and how topical is it, how relevant it is for you, and do you want to be part of that journey? And sometimes it's about a collaboration with a movie. We've used music as a very large collab. We've been doing this for 15 years because our genre of consumers is very young. So we do a lot of collabs with the music. I remember a long time back only had done one music collaboration. Now with Sunburn, we do Sunburn merchandise for the last 2 years. It's a 5-year-long contract with them. So I think, and also when the customer is much more younger, they are also more interested to it. It also helps us acquire more customers, also set us apart differentially. Because end of the day, you need to bring customers continuously to your store. And we are a offline plus online company and not an online where we can pull as much traffic. So you need reasons to bring consumers to the store. Also, I think international collabs is something which we like. Like we have a very large collab with the Disney, and I think one of them we've done with you also, and another one we wanted to do which did not happen. So we'll not do it here, but it could have been a fully game changer for our brand and them, but it didn't work out and didn't happen. But for us, it's very important to be relevant. And collabs and brand licensing helps us bring that relevance, bring closer to the market. And I think a lot of Indian players don't do it because, majorly international players don't do it in India because they sit in a different part of the world. The merchandise is getting decided there. And they don't understand what collabs will work here, what collabs don't work here. Because you need to understand India. As you said, you need closeness to India. It's very difficult to sit outside India and judge India. And I think that's a lot of people have done it and have failed. Global brands that I'm talking, not the Indian brands. I'm sure Indian brands are doing amazing job. But for us, it was very important when we came in 15 years back to understand what India is. And I think that's what we've done in the last 15 years is localize the merchandise, localize what India needs, what colors it needs, what prints it needs, which store needs what. Because we ourselves are a very large, diverse country, and it becomes very difficult to use the same lens to merchandise stores across the country. And we've seen some collabs work perfectly better in some part of the country. Unless you use the global like Garfield or Disney characters, then that's its uniform. But in India, if you have to use local collabs, especially with singers we've seen, it's a regional driven part of it. And hence we use it very effectively. At least for Jack and Jones only I can say because they're the young brand, we do about 4 collabs a year, minimum. And then if there's a new movie and we could fix that up, we'd rather do another one on the top of it. And we keep it short. We don't want to create a space where everyone is wearing it and there's no urgency to buy or... so that's, I think, is... And I think one of the brand which I think I really admire what they've done is the Soul Story. I think the whole brand is built on collabs and stuff and licensing majorly. And I think it's a brilliant job done. So they've understood the consumer and hence now they're able to deep penetrate. And look at the productivity of the stores that are doing so brilliant. So I think we use this as a part of our marketing. They build a whole brand around it. And hence it's a very good use case to look at many other aspects. But I will still say one disclaimer, it needs to fit into the brand. Just don't do it for the heck of doing it. And I see so many brands do these collabs and then they suddenly fail and then they say it doesn't work. If you do the right thing for your right audience and just don't do it because everyone is doing a collab, then it's okay. And that's something you need to be very, very sure. And for that, you need to understand your consumer, who your consumer is, and what they want out of your brand or with them. So that's what we've done in the years here.
But do you feel that, I mean, I was just doing some research yesterday and there's a Dua Lipa concert happening next door tomorrow. And, they've sold almost 100 CR worth of tickets. And the merch, if I were to wear a Dua Lipa t-shirt, the only place it's available is at H&M. So, there is no reason for me as a customer to, and I can't even H&M has not marketed it enough to say that, somebody is going to wear a Dua Lipa t-shirt to that tour.
So I think international artist collabs are difficult in India. We've learned it the hard way. We've done few. Except one that we had done for only, that had really worked well. But it's very tropical. It lasts a week. And then to put that time, money, energy for lasting a week is very difficult. Because, merchandise cycle is large and then the risk on merchandise is very, very... And the moment the event is over, it doesn't work. We did a football collaboration, World Cup football. And I'll tell you, except 2 teams, 6 teams, nothing sold. So it's very difficult, and we also got overboard, I think, at that time. But I think that's the biggest challenge, the time period of a collab, and hence, those collabs are very difficult to do. Hence, we do Sunburn, because Sunburn runs across the year, and then you can create a lot around music rather than one artist. So I think that is something one needs to look at it, and majority of that sale also happens at concert area. It doesn't happen in the store. It does not bring traffic to the store. So if you're not able to fulfill any need, why do you go and take a high-risk collab in that space? And I think that's what has not worked for India. If you look at currently, Diljit's entire concert is running, and one other brand of ours has done a collab, but only concert area sales, no other sales are happening. And that's a difficult problem. So it's very risky.
Okay. But sure, I think even online and quick commerce helps in that run as well.
So it's, yes, but quick commerce is top 4 city phenomenon, right? It's not beyond that. And I don't think everyone is leaped into it, except I think what worked was when India World Cup, Adidas did, that really worked well. I think they did some amazing numbers. I spoke to Neil and right after the World Cup, and I think they were themselves amazed about it. But yeah. India cricket is a religion, right? Winning World Cup and India reaching finals is very different to do a small, it's not a collab. it's a long-term investment into cricket. So I think that works. But that's not collab. I will not call that collab. But those work on Zeptos, and because then it's topical, you want to wear, and then there are millions of people following the but it doesn't happen for other parts of licensing.
Sure. Thanks for sharing that. Rajesh, I'm going to come to you. So today, Lacoste, we have seen, has also a great sports culture related to the brand. And overall, I think, as Vineet mentioned, that, there is already, cricket is a culture in India. I know Lacoste has a great connection with golf globally. So do you feel that sports related, sports content and brands are still to be discovered in India and, to be able to market it in a way that has not yet, it's only very surface level right now and it needs to grow much more?
So, thank you, Ritu. Good morning, friends. My name is Rajesh Jain. I work for a brand called Lacoste. So, Ritu, I would like to answer it in a little different way. When you say that sports culture is yet to evolve in India, or the brands are likely to, will take time to associate with the sports, I think as Vineet also rightly said that cricket is almost like a religion here in India. So it's a no-brainer if your brand globally, if you're a global brand and if your brand globally associates with this kind of a sport, then it's very easy. It's a low-hanging fruit. Yeah. However, our lineage lies in tennis and golf. Our founder of our brand, One Lacoste, he was a great tennis player, and he was a great, his family and he himself were great golf players also. So that's why our lineage lies there. The thing that is happening globally is that we have tied up with a lot of tennis players, like Djokovic is our brand ambassador. Similarly, Daniel Medvedev is our brand ambassador. But in India, tennis and golf, these are two categories which are evolving, which have not yet reached the maturity to have any meaningful collaboration with a larger audience there. So that might take a little time. However, we are very optimistic that in India also, though it's evolving, but yes, it's evolving very fast. There are a lot of new things coming out in tennis and golf, which can give us more opportunities, more association towards these type of sports. However, in India, it's not only sports. What Indian customers do look for is that what is for a global brand. I mean, a lot of Indian brands are so successful that they're going outside India, overseas also. But for a global brand to become successful in India, it's not only the lineage with the particular sport. If you are famous for a global sport outside India, and Indian customers who have been traveling abroad, they have exposure to global market and global brands through internet, through media. So it's not that they don't want to get onto those brands. They love the brand, and that's why the brands like us, Lacoste, they're very successful in India. And the global association works very well in India also. To give you an example, we have a separate line for which is called Novak Djokovic line. That sells so fast in India, the moment it comes, and it's made in France mostly. So the moment it comes and lands in India, it sells and it goes off the shelves just like that. So those things really work extremely well in India, and that is where maybe we are reaping the benefits of what globally the brand is doing. But in India, it's, yes, you are right, that it's slightly difficult to build on those two particular sports for which we associate. And as Vineet also rightly said, that unless until your brand associates with those those sports, it's difficult to build, and perhaps the brands also would not like to build or capitalize on those particular areas.
Sure. So taking this discussion forward, Rajesh, I'll also like to know that Lacoste today is, while it's a fashion brand on the face of it, but there are also other categories that you have, which, as they say, are non-core categories. So do you think that today brands, once they reach that epoch where, they're well known, everybody recognizes the brand, do you sort of then go into more non-core categories, either through licensing or through, I would say self-development or brand development to develop, let's say, glasses or sunglasses or shoes or perfumes or fragrances, even personal care? today. So how does that work for you?
You are absolutely bang on, Ritu, there, and this is precisely what is happening across the globe and in India also now. So if I talk particularly about Lacoste, Lacoste is into 8 categories. Apparel is the largest selling category, followed by footwear and leather goods, and then we have perfumes, wristwatches, underwear, and other categories also. Uh, Apparel continues to remain our core activity. However, we are actively focusing on 2 other major categories. One is footwear. Footwear, we are investing a lot of efforts and money behind footwear because this is growing at a very fast, steady rate year on year. Footwear, if I take it as a category for in general, it's not about the functionality of footwear anymore. It's about the style. It's about the identity. And in fact, we were pleasantly surprised to see that this is also becoming a collectible items. A lot of people buy footwear for different occasions. It's not the same thing that earlier people would buy footwear, 1 pair of footwear or 2 pairs of footwear, and they will wear for all the occasions. Now, for each and every occasion, footwear is different. Now, even if we look at globally, Lacoste is emphasizing and designing a lot of its campaign around footwear and other categories also. The second category is bags. Bags, when I say it means bags, belts, where we offer clutches, where we offer men and women both. We have laptop bags, we have carry bags, we have big duffel bags also. And this category is also growing at a very fast rate. One of the main reasons for this category growing very fast is because of its multi-purpose utility. People can wear it on different occasions. It's not that if you have taken a clutch, you can wear it only for certain purpose only. You can wear it with a sari also, you can wear it with a suit also, and when you're going to a party, you can carry that clutch very easily. And the reason I'll tell you what is happening, especially in India, is that the 2 distinct categories earlier, they're now converging. For example, fashion and sportswear, they're converging. So when you said that we are a fashion brand, we are actually a fashion-inspired sportswear brand. So similarly, athleisure. Similarly, if you go Indo-Western fusion is making lot of comebacks and lot of dent in the market. And this convergence is making other categories also grow. To give you an example, even if I take the traditional Indian kurta, a lot of people wear it with denim and sneakers. And it becomes a style statement and yet provides you the same comfort that you would like to have it in a kurta. Right. Similarly, our polo, if we wear just the polo, it becomes a casual statement. The same polo, if you put a blazer over it, it becomes a business casual. If you remove that blazer, if you wear it with shorts and sneakers, then you can straight away go to sports golf also. So of course, shorts might not be allowed in golf, but yes, for other sports, yes. So this multi-purpose utility and the seamless transition from one occasion to other is giving a big flip to these additional categories of footwear and sneakers. So that's helping us a lot, and we are definitely growing these categories and putting a lot of efforts behind these 2 categories.
That's a brilliant approach, and I think Indian brands need to sort of learn from it that, the minute they realize that their brand has enough eyeballs catching it, they can do much more with that brand instead of just sticking to that one core category.
Absolutely right. And in fact, the mantra is that you give more occasions to the customers to come to your stores or come to your online store and give more occasions to wear, give more occasions to use your product. That helps quite a lot.
Certainly. Naiyya, I'm going to ask you that you've championed celebrity licensing. You've come out with some great lines. I've seen your Manish Malhotra line and even Shraddha Kapoor. So how do you sort of plan these lines and these editions at Good Glamm? And, when you're doing it, idea is to really sort of just go with the celeb push, or the idea is to build something very long-term where, like, let's say a Shraddha Kapoor line would probably last for the next 10 years, 15 years. And, what is the approach towards it?
First of all, I was listening to all my fellow panelists and I was nodding my head because a lot of what they said really resonated. And I think one point I want to kind of double click on is the point about there being a really strong fit with the celebrity and with the brand and the customer that you're going after, right? So that sort of triumvirate if it's not authentic, if there's not a fit, if it doesn't feel like, if it feels like a force fit, today's audiences and customers can smell what is fake from a mile, right? And anyway, in India, we're living in a very trust deficit society. So it gets even accelerated. Then, in fact, there would be a backlash. Let me give you a few examples, Ritu, of the brands when how the different structures have been, as we've thought about it from a group perspective, right? So Shraddha has actually done an equity deal with us at Glamm. She's actually an investor in my Glamm, right? So when we thought about Shraddha, the reason we really loved her was because, she actually is that Gen Z, like late millennial demographic. People love her for her fashion, her aesthetics, her down-to-earthness, her girl next door, but also that pretty, that really vivacious girl next door personality. So what she is in with us is actually a long-term relationship, right? Manish is someone we started our first set of brands with, and the insight there was everybody, especially during wedding season, you mentioned that it was a very interesting point about how wedding is such a big part of lives in India today, and the aspirations are set at weddings, right? Manish is known for his bridal lehengas, but not everybody can afford a Manish Malhotra lehenga, right? So what is the next best thing? A Manish Malhotra lipstick, right? So you feel as a bride that you have a right to live that Manish Malhotra lifestyle, but through, and not just brides, regular women like us, right? How you can incorporate a bit of Manish Malhotra magic into your life, right? And that's a license deal. Then in the US, we've launched with Serena Williams, and that's a completely different JV that we've structured. And the insight there was that, when you're looking at, and it's all in public domain, so I can talk about it now, but when you look at the US audience, right, they were looking for something, and especially girls of color, girls who were on the move. If you look at the Gen Z in US, they're constantly on the move. They're going from one, they're multitasking. We talked a lot about products that multitask. Well, we multitask as women. And they wanted high performance makeup. And who better to exemplify high performance and winning against all odds, that whole story of resilience and determination, that authenticity really sticks, than Serena, right? So if you look at the products we launched there, it's really gone back to her narrative, which is, we did it was a very bold decision, but if you look at our makeup products, their color cosmetics products, they're actually in chartreuse packaging, which, as my friend here will know, is the color of the tennis ball, which really pops in Ulta stores and shelves, right? Very different from your regular pinks and peaches and things. If you look at the narrative, it's called Win Beauty, right? It's really a testimony of homage to Serena's determination to win. So at every step, I think it's super critical to basically go back and say, who are we? What do we stand for? Who is our consumer? Why would they want us? Why would they love us? Why would they evangelize us? And what narrative speaks truly, honestly, authentically to them?
And do you think the post process, which is the sales process, or actually the journey of distributing that product line, now, does that happen for a celebrity line better online? Because there is enough and more social media buzz that is happening around the celebrity. There are influencers pushing it. Then there is the movie buzz out there on a Facebook or an Instagram or different portals. So do you feel that the better result for you in terms of the real product passing on to the consumer comes better digitally, or does it come through stores, or does it come through, let's say, departmental stores and so on?
So again, it's been interesting because you've seen a lot of both sides of that journey play out. So in India, we are digital natives, right? So for us, our starting point in India was always digital. And you're absolutely right. When we did our celebrity sort of investments or, collaborations, as the case may be. We did one with Karan Johar as well with Pout, right? Because he's constantly pouting on his coffee with Karan, so it was a natural fit, and he's got that glam. But, we find it to be, if again, that fit, that holy triumvirate, if you will, if that fit is right, then it is clutter breaking on social. Because even social is so cluttered today, right? So we talk about social, influencers, community. Again, there's a deficit of trust that's building in. So if that narrative comes out strong, and if your communities are built out strong around it, then it clutter breaks. And then it really kind of provides top of funnel for your online play, right? In the US, it was actually literally Ulta because we launched with Ulta in the US. So we are actually larger offline in the US, interestingly enough. Though, of course, the team there, and it's a separate team that's doing the work there, has done a great job of building out the social narrative as well. And of course, Serena's brand cuts through global clutter. So we've seen both sides of the pie play out. You know, I think it goes back to saying, as a company and as a founder said, like, what are your strengths? Naturally, what comes to us is the distribution online and through our own brand.coms. But where can we build really strong, you know, like really credible alliances? That's where the Ulta partnership has really helped us.
I think that's really good. And you know, now that you mentioned Alta partnership being your first go-to, so you've not tried this in India with, let's say, a Sephora or a Tira or SS
Because
Beauty?
I mean, we of course are partners on with Nykaa, and you know, of course, we're on Tira. I think it's also a stage of evolution, you know. So again, like I think the opportunity a lot of us digital native brands saw was that this market is so fragmented, right? That going through an organized structure is very promising, but it's a market that's still evolving. And which is why we said, you know what, direct to consumer is actually an opportunity here. Because we've also seen that when you just do only offline, right, that market is also very cluttered. The entire sort of hierarchy of how you kind of negotiate on different, not just margins, but also like, shelf, space is a very different negotiation. So why not go directly to the consumer, have that narrative, share your story, find that fit, and then build a relationship.
No, I think that's really good. And I think ultimately it comes down to having a fine balance of both. Okay, Prashanth, I'm going to come over to you.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen tomorrow House of Brands, you're housing, you know, the wrong kind of right. And you also got Bewakoof in your kitty. And then there is a host of other brands that you have. So, you know, and given the fact that you are also a digital first platform where all these brands have come together, and how do you think these, when it comes to the customer through digital, how do you keep on creating that more excitement, newer excitement for customer to buy? And, you know, particularly your data trends, what do they tell you, you know, in terms of how customer looks at these products and then how he buys them? And eventually, do you create, you know, more excitement for them within the same brand?
Yeah, so I'll probably build on, first of all, what are we solving through our portfolio, right? I think each brand is very different, both in its DNA and the consumer segment it's chasing. Fundamentally, we're a house of brands that's focused on Gen Zs and millennials. And a brand that's focused on Gen Zs is also quite different of a brand, let's say, that's focused on millennials. Given you've taken Bewakoof and Wrong as two examples from our portfolio, I'll build on the point that Vineet made on, if I look at Bewakoof's journey, they were one of the OGs in that category, which were fundamentally driving on the pop culture and fandom that really matters for that Gen Z consumer, right? So in many ways, they had to be more, I wouldn't say viral, but more in the zone of moment marketing. For example, when last year or the year before Chandrayaan happened, it took literally 4 days, or 2 days rather, for Bewakoof to ride on that national moment of pride for us to have launched onto the moon, right? So I think that kind of stuff, at the core of what matters to the Gen Z is actually not just fashion. It's really the association with the community that you're part of, the fandom and the pop culture that you relate to. And fashion is a means of expression. For example, recently we've collaborated with music creators with a platform called Spotlight, where rather than, you know, to Naiyya's point, I mean, there's a lot of clutter on Instagram already. How do you break the clutter by really, you know, bringing something very unique, which brings down the expression in the art form of music, right? And there's all kinds of art form within music. Whereas if I take something like a Wrong, I mean, Wrong sort of falls in that realm of Virat not just being a brand face, but has always been an owner of the brand. And as Virat's personality evolved as he was growing up, when Wrong signed up Virat early days, he was almost a nobody in the cricketing scene. And today, with almost 300 million followers on Instagram, he's one of the top 5 athletes globally, right? I mean, like even recently in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, I mean, the kind of focus on Virat was insane, right? Now, Wrong, of course, is not saying I'm trying to bring Virat as a personality to you, but as fashions evolved for millennials over time, they've managed to be the brand that's a breakaway fashion-focused brand. But they're not like the, you know, the fundamentally trend-setting kind of Gen Z brand. They're always, you know, trying to solve for a millennial who's slightly older than, you know, maybe you've sort of moved on from your Marvels and Disneys of the world and animes and Narutos, but you still want to stand out within the consumers that you belong to, and that's what Wrong is solving, right? We have another brand called Nobero, which is a millennial brand, and the core of Nobero is really a term we've trademarked as Fashleisure, which is fashion-forward athleisure. And what Nobero is solving for is for a millennial who's a social traveler persona, right? Everything from an airport look to a resort look, but with a very minimalistic, functional, utility brand. Now, this is one where post-COVID, you've seen a phenomenal shift in terms of how people are spending on travel. And again, travel is the end use case. But how do you show up with your fashion language in a travel use case is what Nubero is solving. So every brand is different, and hence the collaborations are different. And even the celeb endorsements we've done, again, sort of go back to what is the brand all about, what is the fashion use case it's solving, what is the identity or a lifestyle problem statement that the brand is solving. And that's where the collabs and the partnerships also evolve in that direction.
And do you see that there's more sort of traction that comes, particularly, these are millennial brands, so more traction comes from digital side, or do you think that people like to buy them or discover them in the stores or so on?
So I think building on, I think the good Glamm pointed, I think for us we are digital first and digitally native, but that doesn't mean we'll be digitally only digital. I think end of the day, channel is a means to an end. We've got to be wherever the consumer is shopping. And quite frankly, even millennials and Gen Zs do shop offline in a big way. But when we look at offline, we look at it very differently from a traditional brand, right? I mean, we are backed by the Aditya Birla Group, so we know how the offline journey has played out for the national brands which have leadership today. But when we show up offline, we are very, very different to a traditional brand's outlook, right? Everything from how do you engage the consumer? How do you bring maybe influencers or creators into the store? How do you think about knowing the consumer cross-channel? And which is why we invest in D2C and offline as a homogeneous understanding of the consumer, and take that same understanding onto Myntra or Ajio or Flipkart, which are the other platforms. But fundamentally, D2C and offline is where you own the channel, you control the channel, you own the engagement. And when we show up offline, we take the same characteristics of what you do on Instagram or on D2C website or on the app, and try and make that come into the store. Recently, we had a launch with one of the flagship stores for Wrong. We had Samay Rana do a stand-up comedy show at the store, right? Now, we took over HSR layout 27th Main, right in front of NIFT. It's called the Wrong Circle now. And Samay Rana showed up there, and the entire evening on a Friday night or a Saturday night was all about stand-up comedy, right? Now, of course, we're selling a hoodie or a sweatshirt or a t-shirt end of the day, but the engagement approach was fundamentally different, right? Now, of course, the traditional brands are also learning the art of how to engage consumers differently, but from day zero, we think, and on your last question on data, I think we've always been a tech and data science-led approach to building fashion, because one holy grail problem in fashion is always, on one end, inventory, but on the other end, it's constantly changing trends, right? So what we do internally is we've invested in a lot of tech and data science, which goes across the fashion value chain, from trend spotting, because trends are changing far more rapidly than what used to happen historically. How do you take that trend spotting into demand sensing, a constant launch rhythm where every month there's newness, freshness, and fundamentally the consumer value prop is what I saw last month is not the same as what I'm seeing this month, right? But in parallel, if you're doing such high frequency launches, a bit like the Shein model, not every brand needs to be fast fashion, but there's an element of fast fashion in every category, right? But how do you then manage inventory, right? How do you build an agile supply chain which has the ability to launch quickly with low lead times, low MOQs, but the consumer doesn't care, what's in your back end, right? The consumer only cares about the amount of newness, freshness that's coming in, and that piece it's humanly impossible for people to do it if there is no AI data science, powering, and hence we've ahead of revenue even in our first year of inception back in 2022, we put together a very strong tech data science team, and in some ways we sort of have a joke internally saying not knowing fashion is better than knowing fashion, because the consumer will tell you what works and what doesn't, right? So as long as you're data driven, within 2 weeks you'll know what's flying and what's not flying, right?
Okay, so I think that sort of set an interesting context. I'm going to go now rapid fire on this panel. I think Vineet touched upon it very quickly on limited edition. And now I think limited edition is very interesting given some events, sports, and other things which are happening. But now as retailers, how do you sort of maximize it in that limited time, right from conceptualizing it, cutting the deal out, and then, that is where Vineet also discussed, go to market and manufacturing and putting the brand on the shelves. Do you think we have already got an existing mechanism to be able to do that turnaround in quick time, or do you think retailers, all of you? So, do you think we're still learning there? The process is still happening?
I think Prashanth said it also. Agile supply chain is the answer to it. And I think if people have not built agile supply chain, I think the time was yesterday. we've already run out of time to build an agile supply chain because the taste and consumer preferences are changing very, very fast. Consumers in India are much more digital savvy. Everyone has been talking about it. They know it. They want it now, right? They are not waiting that it happened in Paris yesterday, so it'll take 3 months for us to do it. They want it tomorrow morning. So I think that's on the supply chain part. You have to build a much more agile supply chain. And I think somewhere we have to also acknowledge we are blessed. We sit in the manufacturing hub of the world, right? But we're not leveraging it enough. We're still wanting to do things differently, and it takes a large effort to do it. It's not easy. The other part is, yes, the time frame to do a collab needs to be super sharp. You remember one of our conversations on something, we said we could do that in 15 days also, right? So we've done collabs in about 10 days also. And we have much different challenges because being a global supply company, getting approvals, entire global supply chain, we still manage to, and then we can only manufacture in few factories because of compliances. But I think it's about how you tune up your organization, right? If your organization DNA is to act fast, you will act fast. If your organization DNA is not to act fast, you do whatever, it will not happen. Because there will be so many steps. I don't know if, I'm sure almost a lot of us understand apparel here. From design to production, it used to be a 12-month cycle, came down to 9. Now we're talking 6. Some people are talking 3. We are talking 45 days. It's not easy to cut this chain. And it takes a lot of restructuring within the organization, empowerment, and risk-taking ability. And I think that's the biggest challenge, risk-taking of collabs. If you put it on Excel sheets, everything, nothing will work. Then you'll spend 2 weeks doing it, collab will be over by then. So I think it's about taking the gut call and who's involved. And in generally, when you have to take a gut call, I think the senior leadership has to step up because if you don't back it up, no one is going to invest in it. So I think it's a lot about the organizational DNA. And if your organization DNA is not that, it's not going to happen.
I'll just build on that example. I mean, when Bewakoof launched expressive sneakers last year, right? I mean, the whole launch rhythm was to drops every week. Some of them are more permanent collaborations, like let's say an anime or a Naruto sneaker or a NASA sneaker. And some of them are more, just literally viral moments that you would want to carry on your sneaker. And a series of 7 to 10 drops, which really got the category launched from almost pretty much 0 to X kind of journey. And we saw so much excitement of an existing expressive wear brand getting into sneakerization. But the sneakers that a Bewakoof would do will be very different to, let's say, Nike Air Jordan or somebody else doing sneakers or a Louis Philippe doing a sneaker, right? But the go-to market was in line with the consumer and the need for excitement and look cool and look differentiated.
If I may add, see, limited edition, in my view, I think that's very important because it allows you to connect with your existing customer base. And it also allows you to reach out to new customers who come and start trying out those products because of the limited edition tag attached to it. However, limited edition, and especially when they're attached to an event, then it's not only about manufacturing, it's not only about supply chain. All the functions in your organizations, they have to work in such a collaborative manner that it becomes a successful event launch or a limited edition launch. For example, we did a limited edition. We relaunched our kurta. Knitted kurta is what we make. It's only in India that Lacoste makes a knitted kurta pajama. And we relaunched limited edition kurta pajama named Golden Moments with Lacoste. For this, first, the manufacturing had to ensure that this launches in time, this comes in the warehouse in time, then retail planning has to ensure that it reaches in all the stores at the right time. Then your marketing, they have to ensure that they build up the anticipation even before it is launched. And when it is launched, then they have to support this also. On the other hand, in visual merchandising, when it is in a store, your visual merchandising, whether online or offline, they need to ensure that this is presented in such a great manner that the people automatically get attracted to it and they can relate to the entire campaign. For your information, like when I was talking about this kurta launch or Golden Moments with Lacoste, we were pleasantly surprised that within 3 weeks, we had a 71% sell-through. And it not only helped us with that Golden Moments, because for Golden Moment, the kurta that we had, it's only the black color that we launched in Golden Moments with Lacoste, but we have other colors also. We were again very pleasantly surprised here that the sale of kurta pajama during the Diwali, it was associated with Diwali when I was talking about the event. So for Diwali, only for the month of October, we could sell as many kurta pajama as we could sell in the previous 6 months put together. So this limited edition not only helps the limited edition, it also helps you sell or attract more customers for other products that you have. So from that perspective, I think limited edition is extremely important.
No, I agree with you totally. Mr. Ved?
In certain brands, we do capsule collections every year, again, depending on the season. One collection we did was the Barbie footwear launch and the Barbie handbag launch. Again, limited edition for a limited time. And it was in collaboration when the movie was being launched in India. And we launched it a week before and a week after the movie was launched. And then we had to remove it off the shelf. Very high sell-through. You also have to figure out how, besides the logistics, to make sure the product is there available on time. We also tied up with certain cinemas saying, okay, we will show that product. We put the marketing in the cinema theaters for that. We did an event around that. All the stores were decked up. The uniforms of the teams was changed. So then you're celebrating for 2 weeks, 1 week before, 1 week after. Very limited edition, did extremely well, but you have to figure out how you're going to market it and what is it that the world or India is talking about. So you just cannot bring a limited or capsule collection without understanding what is the customer's need and what season. Is it the Diwali season? Is it a movie launch season? Is it a cricket World Cup season? When are you going to launch it? I think that's very important. But it works in India and people understand that. But again, we remove it off the shelf after a week because we want to make sure limited means really, really limited. And a customer is able to pick up that product within that 2 weeks. Thank you.
Sure. No, I think that's a great point to be able to mass integrate it with cinemas, with malls, with stores, and the timing of the whole launch itself. So that's very interesting. So quickly, Naiyya, every time a Shraddha's movie launch, do you get to sell more merch that you've made?
I mean, it certainly helps. But let me give you another example. I'm also a board director on Welspun Living, and I see Welspun over there. And we have a brand called Christie, which we acquired a few years back. And that is, Christie is actually a legacy brand, right? It's one of the most loved brands, and it was a source. They actually supply towels for the Wimbledon. So this time around, what Vanshika did, who's running Christie's, she did something very interesting. So there's a whole theme of, sustainability that Gen Z really cares about, of upcycling that Gen Z is obsessed with, and especially in the US. And we're looking at the US market here, US and the UK market, where there's a lot of like DIYs and what can you reimagine your existing product to be. So she launched a limited edition in time for Wimbledon of towels, Christie towels, repurposed into tote bags, right? And that was like a sleeper hit. And that is like such a beautiful idea in itself, right? Because you're kind of building in like those, you're looking at a certain demographic. You're looking at a Gen Z demographic. That's kind of like saying, okay, tennis has a legacy, but then how do I like get with tennis? And then how does Christie kind of fit in the narrative? And it does all three of them in a very interesting way. And of course, the colors that she chose were the poppy, pastel-y colors that really resonate with like an Insta profile creator. And then it went viral on Insta and TikTok. So I think it's that reimagination of bringing in trends, legacy, heritage, but also like your demographic that really do a beautiful job with brand and limited editions.
I completely agree with you. So, and I think with them doing a Wimbledon range is actually something that is really awesome. Happy to take some questions from our audience also. So please, if we can pass on the mics. Can we pass on the mics, please? Can you pass on the mic over there? The gentleman has a question.
Hello, great panel by the way. My name is Jai Shah. I'm from the promoter family of V Trans India Limited. We are one of the pioneers in road transportation and logistics. Been there since almost 65, 66 years now. Just a little longer question for the panel, like anyone can, come ahead and answer. So we primarily are into B2B logistics. So we look at transportation, express, warehousing. Now, personally, I want to get into the D2C, B2C logistics space. We're trying to form some synergies with some good startups, you know. And we recently heard that Myntra went live with the quick commerce in Bangalore. My friend Madhav is helping them, you know, set up dark stores over there. So the question is, how do you see, you know, the apparel industry getting into the B2C, D2C come quick commerce in India? How do you see that space? Thank you so much.
I think that everybody's already there.
Yeah, so I think Venu's right in front of you from Myntra, so you can catch him separately. But yeah, I think quick commerce and fashion is in our mind still very early. Of course, the fact that folks like Myntra are moving into that space is helpful because it'll only accelerate. But I see two ends of the spectrum, right? I mean, quick commerce is all about not so much the category, but more about the use case. If you look at gifting, for example, a lot of quick commerce verticalization is happening because fundamentally gifting as a use case, doesn't matter in which category, lends itself well to that kind of delivery timelines, right? In fashion, we see two ends of the spectrum. One end is more Gen Zs wanting something very quick because they didn't plan for it. You just saw the Manyavar campaign with Zepto saying, if you're late for a shadi, instead of showing up in a suit, you know, quickly buy a Manyavar on Zepto and show up at the wedding, right? So I think for a Gen Z, it could be a date, it could be a party, it could be something which is, that's one end of the spectrum, which is more fast fashion, getting onto quick commerce. The other end is more classic utility use cases, whether it's innerwear or activewear or, you know, some of those are obviously, or even the, let's say the example that Vineet took about the jerseys for the World Cup. Adidas was like doing that at scale across India. Yeah. So I think that's the other end, which is sports jerseys to innerwear, activewear, some athleisure, which is not really high on fashion, but more regular repeat use cases.
I'll just add that to that. I think every brand will have to decide what they want to put on quick commerce. You can't put the whole catalog on quick commerce. So I think be selective because end of the day, you are here to make money. The more your distributed collection, the more you are having a challenge of inventory managing. So I think it's very important what is that tropical thing that you think can work, right? Example, very clear example, if currently is winter, right? There could be a demand for jackets in some part of the, but I don't think fashion as a business just runs because of, there is impulse, but that's not there for everything. So one has to be very careful. Secondly, my advice as a, you are happy in B2B, why you want to burn money in B2C? So if you want to sleep at night, please come on board, no worries.
Valuation.
But otherwise my advice is sleep well.
So,
No, I would just like to add, I'm sorry.
no, please.
See, I would just like to add here, B2B definitely is a good business and quick commerce is the extreme other. However, if you go the middle path, which is D2C, which is not necessarily quick commerce, which is not a half an hour or 10 minutes delivery, as my co-panelists were also saying, that quick commerce may not necessarily be so good as we speak or so relevant as we speak today for fashion category, especially if it is above 1,000 rupees in a country like India. But D2C, yes. D2C is extremely important and honestly speaking, most of us would have realized that there are a lot of pains. There are a lot of pains currently for fashion brands especially because when you send something and especially on the return side, either it comes like a fake or a counterfeit or maybe a different brand or some customers become, they go on a different level also. If you can address that pain, I believe then you can become more successful as compared to if you also become another company which is doing D2C. It shouldn't be an also ran kind of a thing. There should be some value addition. Then I believe that D2C can really be successful for shipment and transportation.
So I have a perspective here because, you know, there is obviously, I know enough B2B companies are looking at B2C because, you know, we were chatting, the valuation opportunity, etc. But I think, you know, you are at the time of a gold rush. You are supplying the shovels, right? So maybe play to your strengths there. If you look at, for instance, what Sid has done with Everest cabs, right? And the way they've applied to Uber, the EVs. I think it's really interesting because a lot of these D2C plays may actually transition to a point where they actually want to work with a partner like you and you do like a JV where you are kind of their rails of doing business, right? So I think that's one interesting opportunity just there. The second is, by the way, not just like in quick commerce. We, of course, know the big sort of three in quick commerce today, and I mean, the few more coming up. But I think there's also an opportunity for, you know, people who are now building out quick commerce enablements for brand.coms. So there are two companies I've been looking at. In fact, one I'm considering angel investing in as well. And they are at a stage today where they need these partnerships to meet the promise of enabling then to their customers the promise of quick commerce. So again, I think, while the whole sort of like supply to a Zepto, to the big ones, right, might be a cluttered category and, everybody is like, okay, these are the big ones we want to partner with. There are these plays coming up which will instantly like turn your brand.com to a quick commerce offering, and they are still looking for partnerships. I think that is an interesting play you could look at and being the back-end provider for that.
Do we have more questions in the house? Okay. Can you please pass on the mic to him?
Hi, this is Kiran Patil from Grovisto. Hi. So my question is to anyone who can address it. So how do you use your online data for your offline sales and vice versa? And this is something which is a challenging task in my opinion, but I would just like to get insights from any one of you. Yeah.
In fact, may I take this question? Not only sale. Sale is the second step. Online helps us significantly in our growth and expansion. I'll tell you, wow. So we have started expanding. So earlier we used to be only in the metro cities and tier 1 cities. But now we have started looking at some tier 2 cities also. And there we were very skeptical while entering those tier 2 cities because we did not know whether our customer base is there, whether we will be able to have the right kind of TG, whether we have the right kind of catchments, etc. And we had no clue. However, our online, we have our own brand.com, Lacoste.in. We could analyze our data to understand that which market, which city is giving us more business online. And voila, that gave us the opportunity that yes, if we are getting so much of online sale from that city, we can actually expand our physical presence also there. That helped us significantly in expanding to those cities. And to answer your question on online, how online is helping offline, I think partly this should answer the question. But today what we have also realized that a lot of customers, they, especially in our kind of brand where we are slow fashion, premium fashion, etc., a lot of our customers, they look at our brand online, but they want to have real experience of the brand. And to get the real experience of the brand, one has to visit the physical stores. A lot of our customers, so it's a soft feel, we don't have any hard data to support that, but a lot of our customers, when they step into our stores, they actually tell us that we have seen your products online, on your website also, or on our other premium apparel websites, but we want to have experience and we want to see it physically. So from that perspective, I think online is helping offline and offline is also helping online. It's not that it's not happening vice versa. A lot of our customers, they come to offline, but maybe they don't want to buy it right there. They want to buy it at their own convenience, at their own time. So they would see the product here and they would try the product here, but then they end up buying online also.
So just to add, and Kiran, I mean, you are one of the legends in the whole sort of online growth space. I love how you're asking this question, but let me give you another example just to build on what he shared. Also the other piece on sell-through. So when you're looking at what sells, and India is such a complex market, the localization is real in many cases, right? Especially when you look at offline. So what we end up doing, and of course, like offline is a smaller footprint for us. So I mean, I would definitely love to hear what my fellow panelists have to say. But what we are doing a lot is like understanding trends from certain regions and then basically using that insight into a category assortment that we then pitch to our retail footprint or to distributors or through, the other like sort of MUAs and, on the sort of shop-in-shop formats that we have. So there's a lot of like social listening we do by territory, and then that feeds into the category assortment and also and we get better sell-throughs as a result as well.
Sure. We'll take on a couple of more questions. Are there more questions in the house? Okay, yeah.
Hi, my name is Ashish. I represent a company called Narola AI Studio. So question for you guys is, we saw a lot of use cases for e-commerce businesses. Just wanted to know from you guys whether you see any potential or any use cases in a retail space where, AI can solve something.
Sorry, the question is AI use cases within retail, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think one problem, at least I've seen, which many people have tried to solve, but I don't know if it's been solved at scale, is if you think about footfalls within retail, right? Everything about heat mapping and exactly what's converting where within the store. That part, while there are a lot of point solutions, but nobody's cracked it at scale. I know Lenskart apparently does a pretty decent job of figuring out what's coming into the store in terms of consumers walking in and what converts. But that could be just one idea. Outside of that, I think it's largely about the whole inventory flow through and the replenishment and the refresh cycle, right? I think traditional retail used to do more spring, summer, autumn, winter. That's sort of, I think, quickly changing. How the stores really remain current in terms of what's selling, how do you replenish faster, almost on a weekly and twice a week kind of cycle. Even what's not selling, how do you pull back that and bring back freshness, newness? That's another one where at scale there's a lot of data across different clusters in the country. How do you make that more automated, more AI driven? Could be another one.
I'll just add to that one, but I think the biggest problem of retail in any business, fashion or anything, is inventory. And I think that the bigger problem of that behind is bad planning, right? I think AI, I think that is where I think a lot of work can happen, because if you could have some predictive analysis depending on large amount of data, and retail has a large amount of data, I think that is a very, that's a big problem solver. And I think a lot of this automation can also do, but I think AI, some part of planning needs to go on AI, because I think that will change the way we look at businesses, and I think that is a very large use case.
So I was evaluating a company recently that was doing something quite interesting. So as brands, we don't have a perspective or any insight into how our frontline workers, our makeup artists, our beauty advisors, how they perform and what is causing them to maybe not perform, or what is causing them to perform, or like what customer insights are they getting, right? So this particular venture was actually looking at building out almost like like an effectiveness tool, which is almost, it's like a small wearable. But basically when the front-facing, your store team is actually talking to a customer, they're actually getting insights live, and they're able to, number one, gauge how well your MUA is interacting, makeup artists is interacting, and beauty advisors interacting with the customer, but equally live, because it's all sort of programmatically, like sort of algorithmically kind of integrated into the hardware. It's able to tell you and tell her what she needs to be telling the customer based on what the customer is telling her. It's all real time, right? And that is a very different level of ensuring sales team effectiveness, because you can't have a manager, team leader on the ground all the time. And in fact, you can't have that person hovering around and then telling the, beauty advisor that ye becho, because you don't want that interference with the customer conversation. So I thought it was a very interesting use case of AI. And that is only, by the way, that can be enabled by AI. It's not like a pre-recorded conversation. It's literally intelligently listening to you and giving prompts to your beauty advisor on what to then recommend next or what questions to ask. So that's really, leveling up, I think, on generative AI.
Yeah, I think the other big one for me is pricing. I think pricing is becoming far more complex the moment the brand is across multiple channels, right? And the dynamism within pricing, especially as you show up on marketplaces, your own D2C, your offline stores across the country. I think on a daily basis, pricing calls being almost automated by AI versus human calls. That's another big one which can be cracked. Yeah.
Sure, we'll, yes ma'am. Okay.
Hi, I'm Abhi Sarka. I lead an online agency called Klock. And I have a question regarding omni-channel. I see that some of you are digital natives and some of you are very strong in the retail space. So what is your vision for omni-channel in the next 5 to 10 years?
See, on the omni-channel, I would say you have to do it, but you have to be careful how much and what you are doing. Okay. My biggest challenge in omni-channel is supplying the stock from the retail store. I think that's not a good thing to do, because you are not giving the customer the service when he or she comes in. And this I can say for all marketplaces. They will show up anytime to your retail store and say, I need the stock. And they will come anytime and return the stock. So omni-channel, the biggest challenge is that I believe you have to do omni-channel. You'll have to be on quick commerce. You'll have to be on e-commerce. You'll have to supply the product, but you can also supply it efficiently from your DCs and not from your retail stores. Unless you are very efficient. There have been challenges when we do omni-channel, when we supply from the store. The focus from the customer coming to the store goes away. And then you have challenges of the customer or the marketplaces returning the product in your store. And then you say, you know what, I send a product out, another product of a competition or some other product came in or a fake product came in. Then you go and then talk to the marketplaces. So I'm all for omni-channel, but I'm not for omni-channel from the retail store. You have to be very specific, very clear. My challenge with my team is when I tell them, they say, oh, my inventory, I'm opening up the inventory to the customer, and I keep telling them, I will approve you to buy 2 store inventory in your DCs. Let your DCs operate B2C. Don't disturb the customer in the store. Because in omni-channel, the other big challenge is returns from the marketplaces. And the other challenge I have, the return is in the air. Means the customer took the product, but the marketplaces will return it to me. They have a 30-day return policy. After 30 days, they have another 30 days to return. Product is not with the customer, not with the marketplace, not with me. It's in the air. And after 60, 90 days, I have to discount it because it's out of fashion and the product could be spoiled. Then I talk to the marketplaces. So I'm sorry, but I'm very, very negative on omni-channel. And I think it is a nice thing to say, sabko karna hai, sab bechenge, but please understand, there's a 40% return on certain products. And when you do cash on delivery, you have higher returns. We have our own e-commerce site, aldo.in, Victoria's Secret. We do not do COD. We are very clear. I will lose the customer, I'm okay with it. I don't want my 30% product, 60 days, nobody is using it, किसी को फायदा नहीं हो रहा है. This is my view, very strong views, and we do have debates in the office on this. And I realized Vineet told me one day, go in the office, say नहीं करना है, बंद करो, right? I'm going to do that one day till I get really, really frustrated.
So I would also like to add here.
That's the right approach.
Do we have time, Ritu, to speak on?
Yeah,
okay, so omni-channel as a concept, I think, is a beautiful thing. However, when it comes to implementation, as Tushar also mentioned, there are several other pain areas also. One is about the returns, etc., that he has talked about, which is extremely bad in most brands' case. Second is about the reconciliations. So when the product comes, you don't know what is happening here. As it is, the reconciliation between online and offline is a major challenge for most retailers. But on the top of it, if you also have omni-channel, and this is happening across India, it's not only reconciling one particular place of business, then it becomes a major challenge. Second challenge, let me also tell you about the GST. As per the GST laws in the country, the product has to return to the same state from where it was purchased. This is not a restriction otherwise, but for GST purposes, if it comes back to the same state, and if it's your own product, the customer has not tried, but at the same time, we can't put the same product again on the shelves again. It has to go through a refinishing process, which also means that either you send it to your central warehouse or wherever your refinishing unit is situated, or you have to establish a refinishing unit in each and every state. So it lengthens the process and it makes it so expensive that it's not workable. Third, omni-channel, on the face of it, it looks that it's not very expensive because the incremental cost is not so much. However, if we really get deeper into it, the transportation cost. Second, if you have sold it from one store, the mall owner would like to charge the commission or the whatever you have sold. We have a revenue share with them. Whenever it gets returned to another place, that mall owner also wants to charge for the same thing. So for the same product, you end up paying twice. And on the third time, when you resell it, then you have to pay it again. So from that perspective, omni-channel, as I said, is a good concept. Another aspect to it, from the customer's perspective, we say that omni-channel is good for the customer, etc. But let me add, at least for a brand like us, which is a premium brand, what we have realized is that a customer is happy buying online, waiting for 3-4 days to come, if they are buying a standard product. But if they want to go and visit the store and want to have complete experience, and if they want to buy something, in case of omni-channel, suppose if that product is not available in the store and you assure the customer that it will reach your place free of cost within, let's say, next day or 2 days time, we have experienced that the customer is not willing to wait. If they could have waited, they would have bought online. But in our kind of products, if they like something, they want to buy it right there. They want to own it right there. They don't want to wait for 2 days. They say that if I want to wait for 2 days, I will go online and buy your product. But if I want to buy your product now, I want to buy it now. So from that perspective, I'll just repeat that omnichannel is a great concept. I love it personally. Yeah. However, in implementation, it's a nightmare.
Can I just add? He did take my name, so I will.
भरे पड़े हैं सब लोग हम.
We love omni-channel, but we hate it because it doesn't make money. I had a 150 crore omni-channel business I shut down in 1 day. 1 day. Venu's sitting right here. He's going to kill me for it. 1 day I had to shut it down because end of the day, no one can reconcile this. Right? Big use case for AI. Please do it if you can find it. Find a solution to it. I'm telling you, it's a big use case. But the challenge is in fashion business or any other business, inventory is key. And if you're not able to reconcile inventory, it's a bad business to be in. We restarted Omni and have started with Myntra again, but with limited stores. I think that's the key. You can't go all hog. I think ये जो हम रोज सुनते हैं इन्वेंट्री 4 जगह लिस्ट हो जाएगा, कोई 4 जगह लिस्ट नहीं होती, कोई एफिशिएंसी नहीं आ रही है, बाहर अलग हालत खराब है. So do it, but do it with big caution. Put your system processes first. I think the biggest challenge is we are jumping into it without putting system processes into the organization. I think that needs to be fixed first. We're back to business with Omni, with all our partners in a small phase, but it's much better now than that business that we used to have.
And in fact, that's
I think that deserves it out just for being so candid over here.
But I would also like to tell you that here we all are talking about quick commerce. Quick commerce could also prove to be similarly very expensive and not so workable for many brands if all these problems persist there as well.
So I'll take a different perspective, right? Because I am starting from a digital first, and then like we're looking at the offline piece on the omni-channel experience, right? And then how do you build trust? So there's a lot of obviously arguments for the omni-channel experience. But I think we need to kind of cut and slice dice a little bit, right? Because हम omni-channel को ये homogeneous entity बना रहे हैं, offline homogeneous है, it's not. Right? So of course you have your MT, GT, that retail footprint. You have your EBO footprint. And then you have an experience center footprint. Right? So depending on the category that you pick up, if you have a high margin, high trust building category, then you could choose like furniture and consumer electronics. Look at an Apple store, right? You look at like what Urban Ladder first did in its early days, right? It chose the 2 experiences here, right, which was EBO. And I mean, Apple stores is the only place you get Apple phones, and you know what the Apple phone top line in India is, right? Or if you look at Dyson, or if you look at, what furniture stores have done. So I think thoda sa, when we look at these problem statements, first of all, I feel in India, sometimes it's a lot of bhed chal. Like omni-channel, everything is omni-channel, we have to go omni-channel. But like, let's take a step back. Who are we? Why does it matter to us? What kind of margins do we have? What kind of a trust do we need to build with the customer? And what is the customer looking for? And therefore, then based on that, what kind of an experience do we want to create? Imagine Apple going through your GTMT, like, wouldn't it dilute brand value? So that is, I think, the step back that we need to take as founders.
I think I'm into that, and before we have a good feud, and Venu, you're going to have to come and solve some of these answers over here. But thank you so much, and I just loved how you candidly expressed, what are the real challenges and the pain points today for retailers. And of course, as retail is growing, we need to crease out these problems, crease out these challenges for really making our margins better and making the whole retail industry go forward. So basically, I think for some of the problems that you voiced out, we'll come to this next forum finding many answers for it and try to address it. But thank you so much for all being here, and talking to all of us. A huge round of applause to all our panelists, please.